I've been at a lot of companies, done a lot of different roles. My background's in design and product, and I think focus. A lot of companies think they have focus, but they don't really have focus. And coming back to Copper, I came back as the CEO with the mandate to create focus, to figure out where this company fits in a crowded space. How does Copper fit in? Who is it for, and why do we need to exist? And I came back and realized we're unopinionated. We were just a generic product out in the world in a crowded space. And so what we needed to do was find out who we are good for. We needed to grow overall. Let me start with that. Like, we needed to figure out how to grow, right? How to reduce churn, how to get growth. And we realized that we're just bringing in all types of customers. And so we looked at who was churning, who's not churning, who's healthier with the product. And we created focus on what we call our ideal customers. We defined who they are. And across the company, we said, okay, this is where we're going to focus.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today we talk about the power of focus, and this is really in context of getting your team aligned together. What tools are we using, and what are the principles behind alignment when it comes to getting your team to focus? Today's interview is with Steve Holm. He's the CEO of Copper. Copper's a CRM specifically designed to integrate seamlessly into the Google platform. They're mainly for agencies and consulting companies and construction companies, but you'll find out a little bit more about that today when we talk to Steve about the power of focus. One of the things I really like about this is the scorecards. Now, maybe this is the engineer in me, and I love data sheets and data, but I just absolutely love the tool and the simplicity of having a scorecard that keeps people aligned about what's most important. And when you're measuring these things in over time, and people see that it's not changing, you have data to go back on to say, okay, what are we doing to do new and next? And that is what Steve's talking about with the power of focus. And so that's just one element that I love to highlight. There's many more, but incredible interview here that I'm excited to share with you. My name is Gene Hammett. I'm an executive coach, been doing this for about 12 years now, and we do CEO coaching. We do executive leadership coaching. We do manager coaching as well. And we help turn your managers into leaders. We primarily work with companies that are in growth mode or have an opportunity on the horizon that things have to change and shift. And if you have a big opportunity that you want to make sure that you're prepared for, that you want to make sure that you are the most intentional leader that you can be. You may not understand what I mean by this, but in my work, I help CEOs really define how they want to show up and who they must be to lead in this next phase, the next evolution of themselves and the company. And if you want to go through an experience that's absolutely free, then all you have to do is email me, gene@genehammett.com. If you're a CEO who's got a big opportunity on the horizon and you want to grow your business, then I am the person to talk to help you do that. I've worked with more Inc. 5000 level companies than anyone in leadership development, and would be excited to share some time with you to get you more intentional as a leader, to really help you grow yourself so that you can grow your company, create the kind of systematic, predictable revenue growth that is possible. Just send me an email, gene@genehammett.com, if you want to have that conversation. Now, here's the interview with Steve. Hey, Steve, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you doing, Gene?
I am fantastic. We're going to have a great conversation about the power of focus and what it's taken to grow your company. Before we dive in, tell us about your company, Copper.
Yeah, so Copper is a CRM built for Google Workspace. So if you use Gmail, you use Calendar, you use the documents inside of Google, we seamlessly integrate with all of that. You can use CRM inside of Gmail and Calendar as well as our web application. So we've been around since 2014. And we're all remote company. We're about 55 people, and we continue to build out our CRM mostly for professional service type companies, agencies, consulting, construction, those type of companies.
So CRM is a crowded space, but you really attach yourself to the Google ecosphere better than I think any CRM out there. I could have that wrong, but I know that's one of the things that you're known for. Where do you see the overall CRM market going over the next 3 years? And if there's any AI component that you see doing that? I know that's a kind of a multi-pronged question, but give us an idea of the next 3 years.
I think CRM is I mean, it is a crowded space. It means different things to different people, different expectations, depending on your business and your role in that business. And I think over the next 3 years, I think there's some interesting things happening in CRM. I think HubSpot is moving up market and really tackling large businesses, kind of taking Salesforce on a little bit more in the big in the bigger business, bigger company space. And then I think you have a lot of industry specific CRMs. I think as you get down into smaller size companies, CRMs are starting to get a little more industry specific, like CRM for dental offices, CRM for agencies, CRM for different specific types of needs. And so I think it's an interesting space. It's still pretty crowded. I think there's a lot of opportunity in the small to medium sized businesses to build CRM that's more tailored towards industry needs. I think AI has a big part to play in CRM. I think of all the industries out there, CRM is ripe for AI with the type of use cases that CRM solves for. For example, help me understand who I need to respond to today in order to keep relationships going, right? Help me craft a message to them that's personal and relevant to them. Help me create a campaign, for Labor Day's coming up. Help me create a campaign that I can send to my top customers, and the CRM can spin up this campaign for you via AI and send it out to all these people. There are so many use cases within CRM that AI it is, will, and it's starting to disrupt and will continue to disrupt over time.
Well, Steve, we're going to have a great conversation, not just about the CRM and kind of what's going on there. I'm fascinated with technology, but I want to talk about the power of focus. That's one of the things that you and had shared with our team that has made you guys the company that you are today. So why do you think focus is different for your company versus other companies?
Well, focus, I've been at a lot of companies, done a lot of different roles. My background's in design and product. And I think focus, a lot of companies think they have focus, but they don't really have focus. Coming back to Copper, I came back as the CEO with the mandate to create focus, to figure out where this company fits in a crowded space. How does Copper fit in? Who is it for? And why do we need to exist? And, I came back and realized we're unopinionated. We were just a generic product out in the world in a crowded space. And so what we needed to do was find out who we are good for. We needed to grow overall. Let me start with that. Like, we needed to figure out how to grow, right? How to reduce churn, how to get growth. And we realized that we're just bringing in all types of customers. And so we looked at who was churning, who's not churning, who's healthier with the product. And we created focus on what we call our ideal customers. We defined who they are. And across the company, we said, okay, this is where we're going to focus. And we're going to put all our efforts here in terms of growing these types of customers, building a product that's not just good enough, but just right for these type of customers. And that's going to give us the ability to say no to a lot of things. Like, just that's so important. Focus is so important, not only to say yes to the right types of customers and things that they need, but equally important to say no to a lot of things and be able to say, nope, that's okay. We have 10 fires burning. We don't care about 6 of them. We're going to focus on 4 of them. And we're just, as a company, going to go after it. And so that's what focus has meant to us. It's really getting aligned on the right types of customers and aligning every person at the company towards getting those customers value and helping them become successful with Copper.
That's an interesting phrase, about 10 times, 10 fires that are burning, and we're going to focus on 4. How do you, as a leader, organize that? Is there a specific, rubric that you use, or is it just sort of your experience tells you what you should focus on and prioritize?
Well, it takes time, right? I think when you first start to make this shift, people don't shift hard enough. They think, oh, because muscle memory says we got to take care of all these fires because that's what we've done in the past, right? And so what it takes is discipline and refinement and realignment, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, right? And so as I meet with my leadership team, we have scorecards that tell us what the priorities are and what our efforts and what our tactics should be pointed towards. And we check in every single week. And as if things are pulling us in another direction outside of our core focus, we need to really understand why, and is that important, and either cut it off or bring it into the fold. And so it's a matter of having everyone on the same page, really understanding your direction and your tactics, and recalibrating very, very often to make sure you're not spreading yourself too thin.
You mentioned scorecards. I think a lot of companies use some type of things. Is there anything that makes your scorecard specifically unique or different, or just maybe simple that you guys use, or do you feel like you've taken a different approach to your scorecard?
Well, I don't know, to be honest, but I'll tell you, our scorecard tends to be really simple, right? What are the outcomes we're trying to drive as a business? So, for example, churn. We really need to reduce churn. That's been a big focus of ours. And so, as we look at our scorecard, all the tactics need to really point towards how will this help us reduce churn, and how are we tracking towards reducing churn, right? And so, I'm not going to micromanage tactics ever. I'm going to help the company understand the outcomes we're trying to drive. Like my job is to chart the course, set the pace, and hold the line, right? And so I need to help our team understand what the priorities are, where we're going, how fast we need to go there, and at what quality that needs to be, right? And if we all understand those things, then everyone needs to go create their own tactics and be responsible for their own tactics. But we check in on those often and make sure we're headed towards accomplishing the business outcomes we're trying to drive.
Now, Steve's been talking about scorecards. You can do anything you want to. You can search this. EOS has some pretty good scorecards that you can use. I've used different scorecards with my clients. I'm happy to share with you some templates if you want to email me, gene@genehammett.com. But the main thing behind a scorecard is, do you have a tool that provides visibility across your teams and tracks the key things that everyone knows that they should be working on? And are you doing the work to hold people accountable to do this? And I think it has to be done over time, because when you look back at the numbers, they should be improving. In some cases, they're going up. In some cases, they're going down. But when you think about the scorecard, it is just an alignment tool, and it does allow you to focus on what's most important, as the team has so many things to focus on. Back to Steve. And you said this really quickly. You're checking in on this weekly with your team. Is this the executive team, or is this across the entire organization? How do you actually use that scorecard to create alignment across all teams?
Well, we check in with our executive team. I check in with my executive team weekly, and I trust them to go do their job and hold their folks to a high level of accountability as well. But also we have a weekly playback, what we call it, a playback, that's for the entire company, where we report out and we try to be very transparent about, look, we're hitting our sales goals and we're hitting our churn goals, or we're not this week, and why. And then we celebrate customer wins, and we talk about things that we've released and those type of things. And so we try to be very transparent as a company on a weekly basis at these playbacks, but that's more high level. We don't get into tactics. It's more just kind of a readout of how we're doing as a company. But we dig in deep on the tactics weekly with the executive team.
Is that playback a video or some other kind of format?
It's a Zoom. It's a Google Meet meeting where we all get on, and pretty casual, but it's it's a chance every week to read out how the company's doing, celebrate wins, talk about failures and learnings, and those type of things.
I love that approach. So getting back to the power of focus, a lot of organizations don't know how to prioritize this. I know I asked you about your specific tool, but how do you get your team to let those other things burn that aren't as high a priority as the 4 primary fires that you're addressing right now?
Well, it's tough. I mean, I have to pull the release valve, right, and say, you know what, it's okay. It's not on the scorecard, and it's okay, right? And so it's about me helping them just like, it's okay, right? You don't have to focus on that. And so let's check in, and if you're curious, let's check in and let's talk about it. So that's one thing. But number 2 is, and more importantly, your goals and your objectives have to drive the right behavior, right? So for example, we're measuring our ideal customer profile churn, right? I mean, we measure all churn, right, across the business, but we measure and report out on ideal customer churn. And so, if your efforts should be focused on the ideal customer profile churn, right? And because that's where we're going to win, and that's where we're going to grow. And so it's okay if like some retail company or tech company churns out, right? Or you haven't had time to support them. I want your time to be focused on our ideal customer and getting them support and getting them onboarded, or whatever your job is, right? And so your goals have to drive behavior. And so we really focus on that as well.
a lot of companies, as you've said before, struggle with the right kind of focus on customer. And you guys have probably done a pretty good job with this over time. How do you, there's a lot of opportunities out there to grow a business by expanding that ideal client. And I feel like most of the times I've seen that, it becomes a wasted exercise of energy and money and time. And because we're building features for, outside that core set. How do you guys, look at the ideal customer profile that might help other companies that are struggling to create the kind of company you have?
Well, we did a couple things. We created our ideal customer, which included 5 industries. And we said, okay, we're kind of a small team. 5 is probably a lot for us to handle right now. Let's pick 2. Let's pick 2. We call them our focus industries, which we picked agencies and consulting. And we said, let's go prove to ourselves that we can make a big dent in these 2 industries, over the next 6 months, year, whatever it might be. And let's go figure out, can we really focus on acquiring, attracting them, acquiring them, converting them, retaining and expanding them. And let's just get real focused on that, because we know if we can go focus and do that for one, then we can go scale that up to others, right? And so, for example, with agencies, we're like, let's go talk to as many agencies as we can. Let's go find out what communities they spend their time in. Let's go, create a roadmap that really resonates with them and build some features that help them do their job. Let's create a custom onboarding and demo, experience for agencies. And let's get really narrow and really good at doing that one thing, and then prove to ourselves that that's going to make a big dent there. And then once you've got a handle on that, you say, okay, let's rinse and repeat that for another industry, and you can start to layer those on. Or you say, look, you know what, agencies is enough for us, and we're just gonna, that's it. We're a very hyper industry specific CRM. I mean, we're Hopper's doing a few more industries, but I think sometimes it's okay to say, you know what, we're gonna go serve this one vertical or this one industry and get really, really focused, as long as the market's big enough and and there's an opportunity there.
Hey, this is Gene. I just wanted to break in here for a second, because if you have a team of people, you probably have people problems. And there's no other tool that will help you address people problems than the tough conversations. You want to make sure that you not only understand that you should be doing these often, but you want to do it effectively. But you also want to make sure that others in the organization are receiving their tough conversations. This book, I think, should be required reading for all employees, to make sure that everyone understands what a tough conversation is and why we do it. And so that you can avoid people crying, you can avoid people being defensive, because it comes from a place of really developing those around you. So you can buy it wherever you buy books, and just check it out today, How to Have Tough Conversations. And you forget, that's the neon sign behind me. Back to Steve. It's interesting that you bring up agencies. I started my coaching just working with digital agencies and marketing agencies. And because I came from that sort of area, and also with my e-commerce companies, I had spent a lot of money wasted. And I wanted to, as a coach, wanted to really understand their business models, understand how they actually get best results. And I've been very successful. I now work with a lot more companies than agencies, but I started with that one niche and got really good at it. And one of my claim to fame is I took a kid who was $19,000 a month doing a lot of different things to very focused SEO for e-commerce companies, and they end up selling for $23 million
Amazing.
after about
Yeah.
8 years. So I get the ideal customer thing, but it's sometimes hard to get your employees on board. Has that not been the case for you? Is they see an opportunity and it's like, oh, this is very similar. We could just roll this out to other people and get more people. But I know the value of being positioned specifically to an industry. Have you had any like kind of interesting conversations around that with your team?
Well, yes, I think the for sure. I mean, when I came back to Copper, it was like all over the place. Like product wasn't talking to sales, and customer success was mad at what product was building, and it was just like it was all over the place, right? And so I think to me, and for what we're doing, it was really important that people understood how we defined those ideal customers. That it wasn't just me coming in and saying, "Hey, I'm the CEO. I think we should do this. Go." And you're going to get, rewarded or not rewarded if you don't follow this. And so that was not the case. And so the way we went about it is we said, okay, let's look at our customers, and let's get input from sales, customer success, lots of data. Our finance team pulled a lot of data, and we said, look, it's very clear to us that these industries, agencies and consulting and construction for us, they convert better, they retain longer, they expand more. And so it became very obvious to us that these were the right types of customers. So you talk to sales and they're like, yeah, they convert better. Great. It makes sense for us. Customer success is like, we can expand them and they stick around longer. That's great. And so it was an exercise of transparency and alignment and data that surfaced our ideal customers so that it became obvious to us. It was like, okay, I get it. I get why we're going after these. And then how you frame it is, guys, we're going to allow you to focus and take work off your plate, right? We're gonna allow you to not spread yourself so thin, but get very good at this thing. And like I said before, say no to all this stuff. And so they got excited about that, and they got excited about these customers, and they wanted focus, and they wanted to understand how their work ties into our focus and the outcomes we're trying to drive. And so for us, that's how we did it. And I repeat it every week. I in that playback I talked about, I flash up a slide and I say, this is our focus and this is our mission and this is our vision. And I just repeat it every single week.
Well, I want to start to wrap up our conversation today and ask you a question about your own leadership. You've probably been through some inflection points of leadership over the years. Is there one that you feel like stands out as being something that you think differently about leadership than you used to, or something along those lines?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've learned a lot, failed a lot, had some decent wins. I think, like I said before, there's a couple things I think about when it comes to leadership. That those three things I mentioned before, it's my job to chart the course, set the pace, and hold the line, right? And I have to do all of those things. So I got to help people understand where we're going and how fast we're supposed to go and what the quality is. And that's my job. That's my job, and I have to do that every single day. The other thing is, I learned I read a book from one of my former bosses who was the chief product officer at Podium. His name's John Foreman, really good guy. He wrote a book about leadership, and at the end of the day, his whole message was, it depends, right? Leadership it depends on the situation you're in. There is not a playbook, just a simple playbook that can apply to every situation that you're in. And so as a leader, you have to be adaptable, and you have to have strong opinions loosely held, and you have to go in and really learn, what are our customers like? What do they need? What is our team like? How do we change the culture here? And so the best leaders I've ever worked with can adapt and understand the environment and pull from experiences to help with that, versus I've had leaders from giant companies come into smaller companies and destroy the company because they think they have the playbook, and they say, well, this is what we did at this company, why don't we just do it here, right? Let's just do it and it will succeed. And it fails almost every single time because these leaders become inflexible and don't want to take the time to learn and understand the culture, the customers, the business model, those type of things. And so it does depend, and you have to be flexible and be willing to learn and learn fast and ask questions, be curious, and that's super important. So anyway, those are the things I've learned.
As final question today, I wrote a book about tough conversations, and I just want to kind of give you a chance, either your own journey of tough conversations as you've been the leader that you are today, or one specific tactic that you think is important that a lot of people don't really get when it comes to tough conversations. Choose your adventures on that question.
Oh man, I've learned a lot. My personality is one of avoiding conflict, right? And I that's, for whatever reason, maybe that's how I grew up. I don't know. But so as you jump into leadership roles, gosh, my first tendency was to avoid conflict and try to just push it down the road, or avoid it. And what I've learned is, if you can just attack it right away, like if you can just kind of be faster when things get tough, you have to increase the communication, right? When you're having difficult conversations, if you let things simmer, then it's going to be bad on your mental health, and it's not going to solve anything. So the quicker you can respond, the more you can up level the communication and increase the communication through tough conversations, the better off it's going to be. And I've had to do many layoffs, I've had to fire people, I've had to deal with very difficult board members, I've had to do lots of different things, and you just gotta, there's no other way than through it. You just gotta go through it. You have to just be there and respond and get through it.
Perfect way to wrap up today's conversation, Steve. I really appreciate you being here, sharing your wisdom about the power of focus and even tough conversations.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation. Appreciate you having me on.
Wow, another great interview here on the podcast. Hopefully, you enjoy the power of focus because it's all about getting people to let go of trying to do everything and focus on what's most important, the prioritization of this. And I think if companies did this better, it would be a lot more fun to work, be a lot more performance, and we would have a lot of really happy employees around us. And it would be happy for us as leaders to run those kind of companies. Now, that's just my take on this. But if you want to get a little bit more of time with me, or just have some questions that are burning about how you change your business strategy or your leadership strategy to catch the next wave of growth, just send me an email, gene@genehammett.com. That's the quickest, easiest way. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage.